Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Unquiet Dead by Ausma Zehanat. Hopefully I said that correctly, apologize if I didn't. This is a mystery novel, it's also a debut novel, and it was just released a couple weeks ago in the middle of January. This story follows two detectives, the first one named Rachel Getty, and she is working alongside with Essa Katak, who is kind of like her superior. He asks her to join him on a case where this man named Christopher Drayton has fallen off the cliffs, and so they are investigating whether or not this was an accident, whether it was a suicide, or whether or not it was a murder. As they are looking into this man's past, they begin to realize that this man may have been a war criminal and he may have had ties to the Bosnian War. And so as they just find out more about his past, they realize there are more and more reasons why someone may have wanted to murder him. This was a fantastic book. I first heard about this from Amanda Nelson over at Book Riot. She had mentioned this somewhere, and so as soon as she said that sort of like synopsis, I was totally in, because not only is this written by a non-white author, it takes place in Canada. The one detective, Katak, is Pakistani Muslim, and so it focuses a lot on the relationship of Muslims and Serbians and Bosnians and people who sort of knew about the Bosnian War. Personally, I find the Bosnian War kind of interesting because it was this really horrific situation that took place in the mid-90s. I was only like 10 years old when the whole thing happened, but I remember hearing about it on the news, and I feel like it's one of those wars that isn't really talked about because it's too recent to really be like discussed, like the Vietnam War and things like that. And so I feel like it's gotten sort of like overlooked because everyone focuses on things like 9/11 and the Iraq War in terms of the things that America has had dealings with. So I don't know how it is in other countries, but I feel like here in America not a lot of people know about the Bosnian War or have any sort of real opinion on the topic, unless they're, maybe if you're older you do, but I feel like I at least don't hear a lot about it anymore. But just so you guys know, you don't really need to know about the Bosnian War in order to read this book, because the author does a really good job of providing background and context to all the things that she's talking about. One of the things that I really like is that at the beginning of every chapter there is sort of like an epigraph, and if you go to the back of the book there is a index or a reference section that talks about where each of these quotes are from. So she's taking quotes from survivors of the war and witnesses at different war tribunals and people who have had experiences from the war and like UN testimonies and things like that. All of this is very much based in reality, and I think that just adds a very interesting and informative and eye-opening perspective that you don't get normally with mystery novels. The author herself has a lot of experience in this area. She is a Muslim woman. She has her PhD in international human rights law. I feel like a lot of the reality that's based in this book comes probably from experiences and stories and people that she actually has known and had experiences with. But even just with all of those different things, the mystery itself and the way this book is written is so well done. The chapters are pretty short, so you end up just like flying through the story, and personally I was so compelled by it. I read this in 2 days because I just really wanted to know what was going on with this guy, what had actually happened to him, and who was involved. There's so much information and background and possibilities that are presented to you, but at least for me it didn't feel too overwhelming. I feel like as a mystery novel this is just so strong. The detectives themselves are really interesting characters, and I hope that she continues to write about these characters or write like a series of mystery novels around these detectives, because there's so much that is mentioned about them but that isn't fully explored that could be potentially really interesting in future stories. Yeah, this was just a really good book. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. This is probably my favorite read of the month. I was so surprised by how much I enjoyed this. I feel like if you like mystery novels, this is a definite pickup. If you aren't necessarily a mystery person, I feel like this is still worth picking up because the story itself and the history and just how it's set up and the characters that are involved are so different and so interesting and such a unique perspective that you don't see in a lot of literature. Chapter. So yeah, that is my review of the Unquiet Dead. If you have read this book, feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys thought of it. If you haven't read this book and you have any questions, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. But really guys, pick up this book. It's a debut novel and it's really new, or like check it out from your library. That's what I did. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.